to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. I just finished a book called The Tenant by Frida McFadden. And I got through like three-quarters of the book, and I was getting to the point where I was like, okay. Like it was so predictable. That's what it felt like until it wasn't. Okay. We'll just say that until it wasn't predictable. It was really good in the end. So I'm glad that I listened to it. I said I read a book. I listened to the book. That's what I do. I listen to books. So I was thinking, I had a great idea because that's what I do. I have great ideas. And what I was thinking is that the next book that I'm going to listen to is a book that is recommended by what is called ZTA Always. So I was a member of a women's fraternity, Zeta Tau Alpha, at Longwood College. And I love the women. I love the women in the chapter, and they are all beautiful, loving women, and they have all grown up to be just everything that I knew that they would be. But I had really left behind my membership, if you will. I don't know. I think it's because I had such negative memories of college. Not to offend anybody I went to college with, but I had a lot of just bad memories, a lot of bad decisions, a lot of drinking, a lot of lack of self-respect, a lot of humiliation and embarrassment, and I never felt pretty, and just everything you could think of. That's what I felt during those years of college. It's unfortunate, but a lot of that is why I think I drank my way through college, to the point where I was just drinking every day and barely passing my most important classes. Those of you who I went to college with, I know some of you listen. It doesn't mean that I didn't have the most beautiful relationship with you. It's just that I had a lot of sadness on the inside, and I drank to numb that sadness, and I tried to have relationships with guys in college to mask that sadness. I always thought that these were the things that were going to make me better. These were the things that were going to fix me. I didn't have self-love because nobody loved me. I didn't have a boyfriend, so that just reaffirms that I'm not as pretty as all these other girls and all of this stuff. So when I graduated, like I was so sad to graduate because I didn't want to stop learning. I didn't want to stop being in that lack of responsibility. I didn't want to start having to be an adult because I couldn't even be a young adult. So how was I going to leave there and be an adult? I was just so full of fear. And so I didn't want to leave, but yet when I left, whenever I thought of Longwood College, it's now Longwood University, but whenever I thought about it, I just had a lot of really, really sad feelings. When I think about that place, I think of sadness, and I've never gone back, and I probably should go back. And I hope one day I can go back so that I can prove to myself that that wasn't such a terrible time in my life, that it was a time of growth and a time that I should be grateful for, because without it, I wouldn't be who I am today. So that being said, I kind of left behind my relationships with all of my women's fraternity sisters. We're just going to call them sorority sisters. Um, with my sisters. How about we just call them that? It's not a sorority, it's a women's fraternity. So I left behind those relationships. And I have some regrets about that because I really had some women, young women were my bestest of friends. And I miss them terribly. But I had such ugly feelings about myself that reaching out to them, I was kind of ashamed. I was ashamed to represent who I used to be. I haven't talked about this before, so I'm glad that I'm actually recording it. So recently, I had one of my sorority sisters pass away, and she was one of those bestest of friends. She was a young woman that I hung out with a lot because she was not only in my sorority fraternity, my women's fraternity, but she was also in what's called the Panhellenic Council. So there's a Greek governing body, and there was a group of us. There was like, I think five of us. No, six, I think there were six of us, including the guidance counselor, the Greek counselor. I can't, sorry, but I don't remember what your title was. Um, and so we were both in that as well. So during rush time, which is the season where sororities and fraternities take on new members, and that's when all the hoopla is and everything. Well, during that time, those of us who were officers in the Panhellenic Council became non-members. We became because we needed to represent the Greek system and not just our own sorority or fraternity. So we stopped wearing our letters and we stopped just representing. So we kind of became anonymous Greek members, not by name, but by who we affiliated with. And so during that time, she was my sister. Like she was the only sister that I had during that time. And we became really close. And I really appreciated her. She was somebody who made me feel good about myself. She always did. And I'm glad that I get to say that out loud, because I haven't. So when she passed away, well, she passed away, it sounds like in October, but I found out about it last month. And it resurrected this love and appreciation for my sisterhood. And so I decided that day that I found out, or maybe it was the next day, that I was going to become a member again of my women's fraternity. So I went online and I signed up to be a part of this Zeta Always, I don't know, movement, I would say. And they have things like book club, they have like social hour, whatever. The only thing I can do are virtual events, and there seems to be a lot of them. And I thought this is a great opportunity for, I always try to find a way to do something to honor the person who I have lost. So I thought this was a great way to honor my appreciation for her, for sisterhood. And yeah, so that's why I did it. And so I am now a member of this Zeta Always. And so they have a book club. So that's the next book that I'm going to listen to. So that was a really long, but I think super important and gosh, it felt good story to tell you about why I'm reading the next book that I'm reading. So, sorry, listening to. So that's what's happening. And if you are looking for a book to read or listen to, I recommend The Tenant by Frida McFadden. If you like the psychological thriller kind of book, but it might be because I'm listening to the books and I'm not reading them. I have the narrator, and the narrator sets the mood for the book. And quite often, what I have found when I listen to the psychological thrillers, not when I listen to Stephen King, but when I listen to other psychological thrillers, the narrator kind of makes me feel like I'm listening to like a teenage scary movie type thing. Like it just, I don't feel terribly frightened or anything like that, which I think might be a good thing for me because I get scared really easy. And if I get scared too much, I will be terrified to go to sleep at night, all kinds of stuff. I'm a big old wimp. It's like I love to see the scary stuff, but then when I have to go to bed that night, I totally regret it. And I'm like scared that something is going to just appear in my room and kill me. So anyway, that's kind of the vibe I got from the book is like a high school, maybe even college like thriller. So, but I think it was the narrator. Okay, that's where we're at. I had earlier this morning, I had a busy day. I went to my dry needling. I almost said dry heaving, which is terrible, but I went to my dry needling and I hate it, but it seems like what I should be doing. I mean, she's sticking the needles right in the muscle, in the very location that is killing me. So it seems like it's the right thing to do. And she's making that muscle like jump. And I just keep coming back. It almost feels like I'm a glutton for punishment or something, but it seems like it's the right thing to do. After that, I had my psychiatrist appointment, and she said she gets dry needling also. And I'm like, isn't it? She said, I love it. And I was like, isn't it painful? And she said, yeah, but it's a good kind of pain. And I'm like, it's not. It's not. I don't understand why people love it. But everybody I talk to is like, I love it. And I'm like, if it's cool to love dry needling, then I am completely not cool because I am not coming over to the other side. But I did say to my psychiatrist, I was like, maybe it's all in the attitude. I was thinking about the episode yesterday, and I was like, maybe I just need to show up thinking that I love it. So she was cracking up. So we'll see what next week brings. I'm going to come in there and be like, hey, physical therapist, dry needler. I love coming here. And oh, it's such relief. Let's get started. And we'll see. We'll see what happens after that. I don't know. Okay, so let's shift gears. And well, sorry, before I shift gears, I did want to tell you about a thought that I had when I was walking back from the dry needling place back to my house, which the dry needling place is in the doctor is lives on the next street from me. So it's a 3-minute walk. And I was walking back to my house. I had about 10 minutes to get back to the house, let the dogs out, and then start my virtual psychiatrist appointment. And as I was walking back, I thought, sometimes I have this just strike me. I thought, I'm doing this. I'm really doing this whole disabled, medically retired. I'm doing it. I'm making it work and I feel okay. So I wanted to share that because it's a roller coaster. So today it feels like I'm at the top of the roller coaster, and hopefully I'm not going to come crashing down the other side. But right now I feel pretty good today. I'm sure you can tell in my voice. Um, but coincidentally, not coincidentally, I don't know. I don't know what the lead in is, but what we're going to talk about today is fending off loneliness. Okay, so it's just completely shifting gears here. The reading this morning in my meeting was about how alcoholism is sometimes called the lonely disease. And that is because we isolate. And we isolate. It's almost like I feel lonely and therefore I isolate. I isolate and therefore I feel lonely, you know? Alcoholism is not just a physical disease. It is, for me, all consuming. It was all consuming. I was dying from the inside out. And so it's deeply emotional. I felt isolated. I felt disconnected and I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I felt like on the inside, I felt like what I imagined somebody living under a bridge or living in a tent somewhere feels like. That's what I felt like on the inside. Not to discount people who are living in tents and under the bridge, but um, it felt like that no matter where I went. And I know that my family often listens to this podcast episode, and sometimes I feel bad saying out loud what I was really feeling because I don't want any but them to feel bad. But the purpose that I'm here is to be honest and talk about the stuff that people don't talk about. And so we would have family vacations, and I was still drinking. And that was my goal. When I was going on vacation, everybody else is hanging out with each other. I am on vacation, I'm going to drink. It's just me and that alcohol, and I get to be entertained by my family. That's what it felt like for me. Um, I remember so many times my family sitting around in the living room of whichever house we rented, and they were all talking to each other, like really having adult conversations. And I remember going somewhere else, like going to sit out on the deck, or going to take a walk on the beach, or going out to smoke a cigarette. Like, even if I sat down with them, I didn't feel like I had anything to give. I felt like, so I was the youngest. I still am. There's no more after me. Um, I was the youngest, and I felt like the youngest, but it wasn't because of them. It was because of me. It was because I stopped growing when I started consuming massive amounts of alcohol. Um, I never felt like I had anything to give. So I just drank to, like, I don't know, fill in that gap. That's what it felt like. Like, a lot of people talk about how alcohol removes your inhibitions. And true, of course, it removes your inhibitions, and makes you act like an idiot in my case. But what it also does is it just fills holes for me. It filled holes in my soul. Um, That's the best way that I can articulate it, because I've heard people say that phrase, people who have a hole in their soul, and they end up filling it with religion or God or whatever, what have you. Um, that's what I felt like. I felt like I had a hole in my soul. And so I poured alcohol in it to fill it. Um, Alcohol made me feel like that hole that it was filling was like the hole that made me not good enough. Like it filled the thing that I was missing. So here I am showing up without alcohol, and I feel like I can't fit in. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like if there's a hole, there's a emptiness inside of me. And when I put alcohol in it, fill it up, I felt whole again. And I felt like I fit in. I felt like I was equal. I felt like I had something to contribute. But when I would start talking, when I would start contributing, it was clear that what I had to contribute didn't measure up to other people around me. And I just wasn't an adult. I wasn't, I didn't have, I don't know. Maturity, maybe it was maturity. I don't know what that thing is, but I didn't have it. And I definitely have a lump in my throat talking about it because I can feel when I talk about it, I can still feel what that pain felt like, that I was not whole, that I was never gonna be able to be what I wanted to be, that I was never gonna be able to measure up. Um, to say that alcohol gave me a feeling of connection and normalcy and took away my inhibitions is just I think an inaccurate way of representing the kind of pain and the processing that was going on inside of me. Um, I we say a lot of times, like a lot of us who are recovering alcoholics talk about feeling different in our lives from early on. Talk about feeling different, and I feel like that is an understatement as well. Um, the pain, it's an understatement because the pain is so hollow and deep inside of me that different doesn't cut it. I felt like something was major was missing from me that everybody else had. Um, so to say that alcohol gave me a sense of belonging, I don't think that's accurate either. I think alcohol just made me feel complete. It it to translate that, it did give me temporary relief from feeling separate. Um, it gave me a sense of being able to connect. Being able to not connect on a deeper level like I get to do now, but be able to at least stand on the same platform as everyone else, you know? But when it wore off, I felt even more not whole than I did before. I felt even more alone than before. And that contrast from the way I felt with alcohol in me and the way I felt when I woke up in the morning and and I was empty again, was crushing. My internal dialogue with which quite honestly, there was a different person inside of me talking to me. It's not the same person that talks to me today. It's fascinating, really. It makes me sound crazy. I assure you I'm not crazy. But it's I'm a different person. I I felt like back then nobody in the world has ever felt like this, you know? And it's like my ego in in reverse. Like, how egotistical was it for me to even believe that I was so different than any other human being in the world? But I did believe that I was different, and in a bad way. I wasn't unique. Like, I still believe today that I'm not unique. Um, there's a play on this word unique, right? I always talk about how we're not unique. None of us are unique. Well, we have unique experiences, but none of us are unique. None of us have ever felt something that nobody else in the world has ever felt. And that's what I used to feel back in the day. So those beliefs finally began to change when I started going to AA meetings, because I started hearing people articulate my thoughts and hearing other people share about what that hole in the soul feels like was like, I mean, it was like I could finally take a breath. It was like I was suffocating and all of a sudden somebody handed me an oxygen mask. Like, I don't have to do this alone. I'm not unique in this struggle, in this pain. Um, I Back when I was drinking, my all of my actions demonstrated that I was a loner. But anyone who knows me knows that I flourish with people, in any capacity. I love to be around people, old people, young people, people. So that behavior where I was acting like a loner, no matter whether I was with my family in a living room, whether I was in a crowd at a happy hour, any of those events that I may have been participating at, the fact that I was acting like a loner was like me trying to put on a costume and stand there like I don't have on a costume. Better yet, it's like I'm walking into a crowded room and I'm not wearing any clothes on. And I'm gonna act like I am wearing clothes. Like, that's how just absolutely awkward I felt in my life. I was emotionally wrecked, just completely wrecked. And for me, that emotional, the anxiety and all of that was exacerbated by what I thought was familial tremor syndrome, which runs in my family. But turns out that mine was withdrawal. And the other people in my family have familial tremor syndrome, but mine will come out every not once in a while, but it's more natural, like when I'm nervous, like when everybody shakes. I just shake a little more than other people. But that feeling of that feeling that I had when I was in withdrawal, which happened all the time because I drank so much. If I didn't have wine in me constantly, I would start going through withdrawal. That made me feel even more so like shameful about who I was, and made me feel even more so that I needed to be a loner, that I needed to take my clothes off in a crowded room and act like I didn't have my clothes on. um, so today I was thinking about the role that social media has in my life right now in a positive way. I don't know that social media, that I've ever given social media the props that I was thinking this morning, is that sobriety gives me not only sobriety, but also in stroke recovery. I have intentional connection now. And I have never picked up the phone so many times in my life as I have over the past 2 years. I have never gone to sobriety meetings so much as I have in the past 2 years. And I have never been so active on social media as I have in the past 2 years, because these actions are rewiring my old narrative. And I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize that when I left my job, that I was starting to behave like a loner. And I'm not a loner. I'm not. That's not who I am as a person, but I can pretend to be easily. And without me even knowing, I just keep thinking of walking in a room with my clothes off and acting like I'm not. It's a perfect, I don't know if it makes sense to you, but it's a perfect analogy for me. Um, and when I when I start taking my clothes off, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, when I start retreating, and when like my family all came over, like my brother was in town and they all came over, and I sat in the room there with them. But there was one time that I actually walked away and I went in the other room, and I felt that feeling. I felt that feeling like I wasn't, I didn't have anything to give. And I had to make a conscious decision to rewire that old narrative and make a decision and say, no, you have everything to give. And they want you. They want you there. And it's not because anybody was doing anything wrong. It's because that I'm sick. I have an invisible illness that is trying to tell me that I'm not good enough. It's trying to tell me that the way you are, just as you come, isn't good enough. And I have to tell myself that I am. And thankfully, the person, that inner voice that's talking to me now, is a new inner voice. It's not the one that used to talk to me when I was drinking. This one, I believe her because she has experiential faith, that I've talked about over the past couple of weeks. And I believe her when she tells me, if you feel like being alone, do the opposite. You need to reach out to somebody. You need to pick up the phone. You need to go to a meeting. You need to share on social media a new sketch that you drew, or a new painting, or heck, just show a picture of your chunky English bulldog and just say how adorable he is, and that's what I do. So those of you who are interacting with me on social media, now you know what's going through my head when I post something. It's It is intentional, and it runs so much deeper than oh, I don't have anything else to do. I'm just gonna post this right now. I actually am making a very deep, intentional decision to connect and not isolate, because isolation is dangerous for me. It is, it's my medication that I need is connection. That's the medication for my depression is connection. Granted, I also take a pill, but that's what I need to do. So, fending off the loneliness disease is the topic of the day, and I think it really hit home for me today, especially as I was talking about it just now. Like I can feel that pain again, and that's why I love to do this because I'm hoping that as I revisit that pain, and my brother actually expressed to me that he was concerned that I revisit that pain, but I have to. It's important for me to revisit that pain. And the reason why I talk about it is because I know that somebody else who has felt the same pain needs to revisit it as well so that we know how to counteract it, how to take our medication and connect with each other. And that's what we're doing here. So thanks so much for listening today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.